I go further than criticizing Islamists, and I say, I want the right to criticize Islam. You think it's offensive. My point is that, okay, so you're offended, and I'm offended. That's fine. Why can't we be offended and still manage to have a conversation about something that is a matter of life and death for many Muslims as well, for many Muslims. But if we're not even allowed to come to a university at Goldsmiths to say that people have a right to leave Islam, that have a right not to be called a kafir, that have a right not to have people who I admire, who are my heroes, like Raif Badawi, facing 10 years in prison in Saudi Arabia, or that beloved Bangladeshi bloggers who happen to be atheists and seculars are hacked to death in the public. Well, I'm sorry if it offends some people, that's fine. Learn to be offended, but also learn to understand that if you want the right to religion, which is a fundamental right, you must also understand that that right is intrinsically linked with the right to be able to leave religion. If people can only become Muslims, if they can only convert into Islam, but they can never leave, that's not really very good for your religion, is it? Because it's basically saying that you can come and you can never leave. The religion is not confident enough to allow people to come and go as they choose. And when we fight for apostasy and blasphemy, I know you don't like it, but that fight opens the space for many dissenters, including many Muslim dissenters, because don't forget, there are many Muslim dissenters, many, who consider themselves Muslims, who are proud to be Muslims, but they are facing Osama Hussein. He's a theologian, but just because he said women and men have the right to equality, he's got death threats. In Britain, his family runs a Sharia court, one of the worst Sharia courts. What I'm saying is that this is not just my fight as a apostate, in the same way that the fight for women's equality is not just a fight for women, it's also a fight for men. The fight for apostates is not just a fight for apostates, it's a fight for everybody to be able to think as they want and to have opinions that are controversial, that are considered inflammatory, and to have a right to do that.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I'm just saying, for instance, like,
shall I let her?
You're interrupting me while I speak.
Oh, sorry. I had to finish.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. So what I was saying was that it's like, for instance, the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because Hitler doesn't represent Christianity, even though he done his thing to the label of Christianity.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that these kind of talks, I understand that they're informative, but they can go in a way where they can influence and push hatred towards Islam. It can go either way. They could be open to us that have it, like we can listen and we understand what you're saying, but they can also fall in the wrong hands of people who are already very extreme against Islam and incite hate.
My point is, though, that my first enemy is Islamism, as I think it is many of ours, yeah, and the religious right in general. But also, can I please also be able to say I don't like Islam without fearing for my life, without having my meeting disrupted? Is that possible? In the same way that you have a right to defend your religion, and I defend that right, can you also defend my right to say I don't like Islam? I don't want to be I don't want to be Muslim anymore. And you know what? I hate all religions. I think religions are medieval, superstitious, anti-woman, homophobic ideas. And can you please, the right to say that? That's my fight, yeah? So, no, okay, well, look, I've told you, nobody has to apologize for the behavior. This is not a collective community. I don't speak for all ex-Muslims, and those who try to disrupt the meeting don't speak for all Muslims either, and I don't speak for all ex-Muslims, I say Muslims. But what I'm saying is that nobody has to apologize for anyone. We speak as individuals about issues that are important to us. But what I'm trying to say is that when I speak, I'm banned. I've got security. I've got people disrupting my meetings. Why? I'm called Islamophobic. I'm called inciting hatred. If there's any hatred incited, it's against us who are apostates and blasphemers. We're the ones who have death threats against us. But if I come and speak, I'm discriminating against a minority. I'm a minority within a minority. Why can't I speak? What's the problem? What is everyone so afraid of? And this is the issue. When we create an environment where, if it was anybody other than me, they wouldn't have come into this too intimidated. But I've fought this Islamic regime for 30 years in my country, so this does not intimidate me. But what I want to say is that this shuts down debate, and it doesn't allow us to discuss issues which are a matter, I've said this before, a matter of life and death for all of us, not just for me.
Sorry. I just want to bring your attention to the fact that in Islam, we believe in something called free will. And coming back to the point you said about leaving Islam, I respect you as a person wanting to leave Islam and agreeing with certain aspects or all aspects of Islam itself. And free will provides you with that right to leave, use your mind to make these decisions, make these choices, and also bringing back to the fact about the lady that brought about the fact that women's rights are, abolished and stuff in Libya, and you bringing up all these extremist cases in so many different countries around the world. But to me, that proves the fact that this issue is mainly cultural rather than Islam itself. To me, that proves the point, rather than proving that Islam is, a religion promoting violence in every single way. I just want to make that point.
Please, Chairman, I'd like to say something about that. It's not uncultural. Libya was to be a secular society. We didn't have a problem at all. It started in 2011.
Well, why does
It started in 2011 because Islamists took over the country and they started abolishing a lot of laws. In Libya, the second wife wasn't allowed. In Libya, women had their rights before, and they were equal to men in all the legal aspects. And then when the Islamists took over, they start changing the laws according to Islamic Sharia. And women, they cannot travel without muhram, a companion, guardian. They are not allowed to be in the street without hijab. They are not, they abolished the law for marrying a second wife because it was banned in Libya, and then they brought it back. A man can marry 4 times, it's fine, without even consulting his first wife. A woman, if she wants to get divorced, she goes to her family house. They call her back according to Beit Ta. What is the Beit Ta in English? When they call women according to Sharia law, Beit Ta, do you know?
They have to obey. They cannot.
Beit Ta, it's a Sharia law. So I mean, I fought for women's rights, and I had to leave my country. And I studied Sharia law. I studied the Quran. I went to the mosque. I mean, I know what's going on, and this is my opinion. And if you think that this is not in the Islam and it's not in the Sharia law, I really advise you to read. And I really advise you to read. And another thing, the leaving the Islam, according to Islamic Sharia, there is something called Haddur Ridda. Haddur Ridda is killing in Islam. If you leave Islam, you have to be killed. That's Haddur Ridda. And if you disagree, and if you think I am wrong, I just advise you to go and search. That's all I can do.
I advise you.
That's your opinion. I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm not insulting. I'm not here to insult anybody. Seriously, I'm not here. I'm sorry. Just a moment. I'm not here to insult you. I'm not insulting you. I am saying if you think what I say is wrong, just make sure. That's all.
You told me also, I've been told you're going to read the Quran. It's okay, okay? But the thing is that we can not agree with each other and still respect each other as people.
Well, she's not respecting
We don't.
us.
But
I am respecting you. I am respecting you.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I studied in Quranic school. I know Quran by heart. And I'm not here to speak about Islam. I'm here to speak about the facts. Let's speak about, I'm not here to speak about faith of people. I'm speaking about what is happening in countries where Islam is state religion. I came from a country where Islam is state religion, where you go for more prison if you're gay, if you speak about Islam, if you speak about monarchy, more than if you molest kids, and you got child molesters that go for 2 or 3 years in prison. I read 7 to 15 years in prison that I get on my back in my country because of speaking against Islam. Al-Azhar in 2015, the biggest Sunni authority in the world, called the President Sisi to execute all atheists, and anyone who reads Arabic, they can go and check. In 2015 in Kuwait, someone who just wrote in Twitter something about Islam, and they go for 15 years in prison. I don't care about what Quran said or what the Hadith say. What I care about is the laws that are implemented today. In 2015, in those countries, in Tunisia, someone only shared the Danish cartoons on Facebook. What happened? 7.5 years in prison, while people who went to the American embassy and sued the American embassy and destroyed the American embassy got 2 years suspended in prison. People, because they say there is no Allah, there is no God in Indonesia, they're in prison for 5-6 years. So we're not here having a theological debate, but what we're having is actual life stories of people that are being languishing in prison, that are dead of fear to speak against Islam in countries where Islam is state religion. And you say, what if people who hate Islam instrumentalize this speech against Islam? But what about all those who instrumentalize Islam and hate speech to kill apostates and all that? What about all those who kill people in the name of Islam and instrumentalized it? Actually, the big death toll that exists ever is that the people who killed in the name of Islam. And as we speak about misogyny and misandry, if the case is there's many events where people hated Muslims and anti-Muslim bigotry, but the biggest picture here is when Muslims, when those terrorists, when those Islamists attack in the name of Islam. So when people use the Quran, and you can say misquote or whatever, to do what ISIS are doing, what Al-Shabaab are doing, what Mujahideen in Azawad, in Mali, destroyed